What if I told you that the genuine, most powerful remedies for stomach bloat aren't found in a modern pharmacy aisle, but have been growing quietly in the ground, placed there by design, for thousands of years? Most people don't know this, but ancient scripture and traditional healing systems point to specific plants that don't just mask the discomfort. They eliminate the root cause of bloating almost instantly. And modern clinical science is finally catching up. We're talking about a sensation that makes your abdomen feel larger than normal. A pressure that doesn't physically enlarge until its volume increases by an entire quart. That's a lot of trapped air and inflammation. I've put together a list of 15 of these powerful creations, ranked from the gentle soothers to the absolute heavy hitters that work with what can only be described as divine speed. Stick around because number 9 on this list is a common weed you've probably pulled from your garden and thrown away. Yet modern science reveals it's a potent source of a specific anti-inflammatory fat. And number 15, the champion, is so effective at relaxing a cramped digestive tract that clinical trials have shown it reduces bloating and cramping in people with sensitive stomachs within hours. You don't want to miss this. Before we get into these sacred plants, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a video where we bridge ancient biblical wisdom with modern, peer-reviewed science. Here are 15 gut healing plants ranked from gently effective to absolutely extraordinary. Number 15, cleavers, the gentle lymphatic cleanser. This is a plant that you might know as sticky willy or goosegrass, that clingy weed that sticks to your clothes as a child. If you grew up running through fields or playing in the woods, you remember it. You'd come home with your socks covered in these tiny green burrs, and your mother would make you pick them off one by one before you came inside. It seemed like a nuisance, almost playful in its persistence, but it has a profound indirect effect on your gut. In traditional herbalism, cleavers were never seen as a direct digestive bitter, but as a tonic for the lymphatic system. Think of your lymphatic system as the drainage network of your body, a vast network of vessels and nodes that runs parallel to your blood vessels, quietly collecting cellular waste, metabolic debris, and excess fluid from every tissue. When it gets sluggish, when the flow becomes stagnant and thick, inflammation and cellular waste can build up in the tissues surrounding your intestines, creating a sensation of pressure and congestion that feels exactly like bloat. It's not gas. It's not food. It's a boggy, heavy, swollen feeling that makes your clothes feel tight and your energy feel low. Modern science has identified that cleavers supports this drainage network, acting almost like a gentle plumbing service for your internal environment. The plant contains compounds that stimulate the movement of lymph, encouraging the body to process and eliminate the waste that's been pooling in the interstitial spaces around your gut. Here's the traditional use, and I want you to pay close attention because the preparation matters. You don't boil cleavers. Heat destroys the delicate lymphatic compounds. Instead, you take a handful of the fresh aerial parts, the stems and the leaves and those tiny white flowers, chop them roughly, and place them in a jar. Cover them with cool, pure water, put a lid on it, and let it sit on your counter overnight. In the morning, the water will have taken on a pale green hue and a slightly silky texture. Strain it and sip that cool infusion throughout the day, a cup in the morning, a cup in the afternoon. It reduces that heavy, boggy feeling of systemic inflammation. A word of caution here, and I want to be honest with you. Cleavers is a powerful lymphatic mover, and when you first start using it, you might feel a slight headache or a bit of fatigue as your body begins to dump stored waste into the circulation for elimination. This is normal. It's a healing response. But start slowly, drink plenty of water to support the flush, and listen to your body. We forgot plants like this because we began chasing direct chemical attacks on symptoms: the gas bubble, the cramp, the pressure, while ignoring the terrain of the body. The swampy, stagnant internal environment that allows the bloat to persist in the first place. Think of cleavers not as a bomb squad for gas, but as the maintenance crew that quietly takes the trash out so the neighborhood of your belly doesn't become swollen and backed up. Number 14, chickweed, the internal lubricator. If your digestive tract feels dry, irritated, and spasming from hard-to-pass food, chickweed is your answer. This is a tiny, Delicate plant with a star-shaped white flower and a teardrop-shaped leaf. Often found in cool, damp places at the edges of gardens, in the shade of larger plants. I remember the first time I really looked at chickweed, really saw it for what it was. I was on my hands and knees in early spring. The soil still cold and damp from the melting frost, and there it was. A mat of tender green, each leaf pair catching the low morning light. It's not commanding or majestic. It doesn't demand your attention like a towering sunflower or a thorny thistle. But it is profoundly soothing. The biblical concept of a land flowing with abundance isn't just about food, the wheat and the barley and the olives, but about the medicine growing in the margins, the quiet plants that don't make it into the grand narratives, but were known to every wise woman and healer who walked the fields. Chickweed contains saponins and mucilage, and it gently encourages healthy elimination with a very mild laxative property that never feels violent or cramping. It's like a lubricating gel for your intestinal walls. Picture your digestive tract as a long, winding tube. When it's well hydrated and well lubricated, food moves through it like a gentle stream. But when it's dry, when the mucosal lining is depleted from stress or poor diet or dehydration, that stream becomes a rocky creek bed, and every bit of fiber scrapes and catches, causing the muscles to spasm and trap gas. Modern herbalism has recognized that chickweed's cooling, moistening energy directly addresses the dryness and friction that can cause painful, bloated constipation. Here's the traditional use, and this is one of the few plants I'll tell you to eat fresh. Go outside in the cool of the morning, find a clean patch of chickweed, and snip the top few inches of the plant. Rinse it gently in cold water, shake it dry, and toss it into a salad. The fresh plant has a crisp, mild flavor, slightly grassy, slightly sweet, with a tender crunch that reminds you of the finest microgreens. You can also make a strong infusion by steeping a generous handful of the fresh herb in just boiled water for 20 minutes. Covered, it works by soothing the irritated gut lining and allowing things to slide along as they should. We've replaced this with harsh stimulant laxatives that dehydrate and create dependency, that force the bowel to empty through chemical irritation rather than gentle lubrication. The real question is, why have we forgotten that a moistened, soothed gut is a functional gut? Think of chickweed as the internal oil for a creaky, grinding engine that hasn't been serviced in decades, restoring the glide and the ease so the whole machine stops shuddering and starts humming. Number 13. Purslane, the omega-3 powerhouse hiding in the cracks. This is the one I teased at the beginning. Purslane, or Portulaca oleracea, is a succulent weed that grows in the cracks of sidewalks and in dry, neglected soil. It has fleshy, paddle-shaped leaves that are slightly glossy, and reddish stems that creep along the ground in a sprawling, tenacious mat. Most people see a pest and rip it out. They bend down, grab it by the root, and toss it into the compost pile without a second thought. But this plant is literally one of the most potent botanical sources of omega-3 fatty acids on the planet. Not fish oil, not a fancy supplement in a soft gel capsule shipped from halfway around the world, but a humble, fleshy leaf growing between the paving stones of your own driveway. Why does this matter for instant bloat relief? Because systemic inflammation in the gut lining is a primary driver of that swollen, distended feeling. When your intestinal mucosa is inflamed, it becomes engorged with fluid and immune cells, thickening and swelling just like a sprained ankle swells. That swelling reduces the internal diameter of your gut, slowing transit and creating pockets where gas can accumulate. Omega-3 fatty acids are powerful anti-inflammatory agents that calm the fire directly at the mucosal surface. They are incorporated into the cell membranes of your intestinal cells, changing the very structure of the tissue to be more resilient and less reactive. Modern science has caught up, analyzing purslane's lipid profile and finding a perfect balance of fatty acids that our cell membranes crave. Not just omega-3s, but also the right ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, which is critical for controlling the inflammatory cascade. Here's the traditional use. The leaves, stems, and flowers are all edible. You pick them fresh, rinse away any grit from the sidewalk or garden soil, and eat a handful raw. They have a slightly lemony, salty crunch, a succulent pop when you bite into them, with a mild tang that wakes up your mouth. Sprinkle them on your food, toss them into a salad, or just eat them straight from the stem, and you are delivering a calming, cooling balm directly to the inflamed tissues of your digestive tract. We spend a fortune on fish oil capsules that can cause fishy burps and rancidity, that sit on store shelves for months, oxidizing into pro-inflammatory compounds, while the genuine, fresh, living version is growing freely at our feet. Think of purslane as a fire extinguisher for a gut that's silently burning with dietary inflammation, a sacred food we trampled on without a second thought, never knowing we were crushing medicine under our shoes. Number 12, common mallow, the velvet coat for your insides. This is a plant with a deep history in scripture and ancient medicine. In the book of Job, chapter 30, verse 4, we read of those who cut up mallows by the bushes, a food for those in desperate times, for the outcast and the hungry. But it's so much more than survival food. Common mallow, with its round, scalloped leaves and its delicate pink-purple flowers that look like miniature hollyhocks, contains a substance called mucilage. Mucilage is a thick, slippery polysaccharide, a complex sugar that swells in water and becomes a gel. When you drink a mallow infusion, that gel literally coats and calms the gut lining like a liquid bandage. It adheres to the inflamed tissue, creating a protective barrier between the sensitive mucosa and whatever is irritating it. When you have bloat from eating something irritating, something spicy or acidic or just hard to digest, or from a condition like gastritis, where your stomach lining is raw and angry, your intestinal walls are reactive. Every bite of food, every swallow of liquid, feels like sandpaper on a sunburn. Mallow doesn't force anything. It doesn't chemically neutralize acid or kill bacteria. It simply creates a protective, cooling gel layer between the inflammatory trigger and your sensitive tissue, allowing the muscles to stop spasming and the gas to pass naturally. Here's the traditional use, and this is important. You don't make a hot tea with mallow. Heat degrades the mucilage. Instead, you take the leaves and the roots, chop them coarsely, and place them in a jar of cold water. Let it sit overnight, or for at least 8 hours. In the morning, the water will have transformed into a silky, viscous liquid, slightly thick on the tongue, with a mild, earthy sweetness. Drink that slowly, and you'll feel an immediate soothing sensation, a coolness that travels down your throat and settles in your stomach like a comforting blanket. Modern processing has stripped our diet of these demulcent fibers. We refine our grains, we peel our vegetables, we cook everything until the slippery, soothing compounds are destroyed, leaving our gut linings exposed and reactive, constantly bombarded by roughage and acid with no protective barrier. Think of common mallow as the velvet glove that picks up a sharp, jagged piece of glass in your system, allowing it to pass without cutting you on the way out. Number 11. Plantain, not the banana, the weed, the drawing and sealing healer. This is the broadleaf plantain that grows in your lawn. The one with the parallel veins running lengthwise down the leaf. The one with the tall, slender seed heads that children pluck and shoot at each other. It's a plant that has been used for millennia to pull venom from a bee sting and slivers from skin. You've probably done it yourself without knowing the full story. You're outside, you get stung, and someone older and wiser grabs a plantain leaf, chews it up into a green paste, and presses it onto the sting. Within minutes, the pain fades and the swelling goes down. That's the drawing power of plantain. But internally, it performs a similar, miraculous function on a leaky, inflamed gut. Plantain leaves contain both tannins and mucilage, a combination that is rare and powerfully synergistic. The tannins have a mild astringent effect, a tightening and toning action on lax, swollen tissues. If you've ever drunk a strong black tea and felt your mouth pucker and dry, you've felt tannins at work. In the gut, that same astringency tones and tightens the intestinal lining, reducing the gaps between cells. The mucilage soothes and heals, coating the tissue and reducing friction. It's this dual action that makes plantain a master for bloat caused by a permeable gut lining, a condition often called leaky gut, where the tight junctions between your intestinal cells become loose and allow toxins, partially digested food particles, and bacterial fragments to leak into the bloodstream. Your immune system, sees these invaders and launches an attack, flooding the area with inflammatory compounds, and the result is a massive, reactive belly bloat that seems to come out of nowhere and won't go away. The tannins help seal the leaks, tightening those junctions back up, while the mucilage reduces the friction and soothes the inflamed tissue. Here's the traditional use. You can chew on a clean, fresh leaf and swallow the juice, letting the green, slightly bitter liquid coat your mouth and throat before it travels down to your stomach. Or you can make a strong tea by steeping the leaves in just boiled water for 15 minutes. It promotes healing of the gut lining, reducing that immediate reactive swelling. We run to antacids and histamine blockers, never realizing a lawn weed has the astringent power to physically tighten up a seeping, inflamed barrier. Think of plantain as a master mason and a plasterer, repairing the crumbling mortar in the brick wall of your intestine so the pressure stops building up from the inside. Number 10, dandelion, the bitter awakening. We're moving now from the purely soothing plants to those that actively stimulate digestion, that don't just calm the symptom, but fire up the engine that prevents the symptom from occurring in the first place. Dandelion is often vilified as a lawn nuisance, a weed to be poisoned and eradicated. But it's one of the most complete digestive tonics on Earth. Every part of this plant is medicine. The leaf, with its jagged, lion-toothed edges, acts as a mild, natural diuretic, helping the body release excess water retention. You know that heavy, puffy bloat that has nothing to do with gas and everything to do with fluid pressure. The kind where you press your finger into your shin and it leaves a dent. The kind where your rings are tight and your ankles feel thick. Dandelion leaf, rich in potassium and other minerals, gently encourages the kidneys to release that stored fluid. And unlike pharmaceutical diuretics, it doesn't strip your body of potassium in the process. It actually replenishes it, but the root is where the magic happens for food bloat. Dandelion root is a bitter tonic of the highest order. It stimulates the liver and gallbladder to produce and release bile. Bile is your body's natural grease cutter, a greenish-yellow fluid that emulsifies fats, breaking them down from large globules into tiny droplets that enzymes can easily access. If you eat a fatty meal and feel like a rock is sitting in your stomach for hours, heavy and immovable, it's because your bile flow is sluggish. Your liver is producing it, but your gallbladder isn't squeezing it out efficiently. And so that fat just sits there, fermenting and creating gas. The root also contains inulin, a natural prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. But the immediate effect, the effect you feel within 30 minutes, comes from the bitter compounds. Here's the traditional use, and I want you to try this exactly as I describe it. Dig up a dandelion root, scrub it clean, chop it into small pieces, and roast it in a low oven until it's dark brown and brittle, and your kitchen smells like a cozy, earthy coffee shop. Grind it in a mortar or a coffee grinder and brew it just like you would brew coffee, with hot water and a strainer. That bitter taste on your tongue isn't just a flavor. It triggers a neural reflex, a hardwired biological response that sends a signal from the bitter receptors on your taste buds straight to your brain, and from your brain down the vagus nerve to your digestive organs, shouting, "Release the bile. Produce the enzymes. Prepare for food." Your stomach begins to churn, your gallbladder contracts, your pancreas readies its secretions, all before the first sip even reaches your stomach. We've lost that reflex because we eat only sweet and salty. Our taste buds have been dulled by processed foods, and our digestive systems have grown lazy and unresponsive. Think of dandelion root as the ignition switch for a stalled digestive engine. Flooding the system with the genuine bile it needs to break down the meal that's been sitting there swelling. Number 9, artichoke leaf, the fat demolition expert. This is not the heart of the artichoke you eat as a delicacy, the tender base of the bracts that you dip in butter and scrape with your teeth. This is a specific extract from the leaf, and it's one of the most clinically studied plants for functional dyspepsia and bloating. Artichoke leaf contains a compound called cynurin, along with other caffeoquinic acids. These substances directly stimulate the production of bile in the liver and its ejection from the gallbladder. If dandelion is the ignition switch, artichoke is the high-pressure hose. It doesn't just turn on the flow, it blasts it, Modern clinical trials. Real double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, published in peer-reviewed journals, have shown that artichoke leaf extract significantly reduces symptoms of bloating, fullness, early satiety, and flatulence, particularly after a heavy meal rich in fats. In one study, patients taking artichoke extract reported a significant reduction in their symptoms within 2 weeks, and many felt relief after the very first dose. It literally helps you break down the fats that are sitting in your stomach, foaming and fermenting, creating that upper abdominal pressure that makes you want to unbutton your pants and lie down. Here's the traditional use. A strong bitter tea made from the dried leaves, steeped for at least 15 minutes to extract the active compounds. The taste is intensely bitter, almost unpleasant, but that bitterness is the medicine. You can also find standardized extracts in capsule form, which is one of the few times I'll recommend a supplement over the whole plant, simply because the fresh leaves are hard to come by, unless you live in artichoke-growing country. The effect is a physical sensation of relief, a reduction in that upper abdominal pressure, often within an hour of taking it. You can feel the heaviness lift, the tightness release. We've been conditioned to fear fat, or to pop an enzyme pill if we eat it, forgetting that plants like artichoke were designed to help our bodies process rich food naturally, to handle the feast without the fallout. Think of it as a degreasing agent for your small intestine, cutting through the sludge so the gas has no reason to form in the first place. Number 8, coriander seed, the volatile gas mover. We often think of coriander as the fresh green leaf, cilantro, that bright, citrusy herb that some people love and others, through a genetic quirk, perceive as soapy. But the dried seed has a completely different chemical profile and a powerful targeted action on trapped gas. Coriander seeds are a carminative. That's an old word, a word that comes from the Latin carminare, to cleanse, or to card wool, to tease out the tangles. Carminatives literally expel gas from the bowel. They don't just mask the sound or the smell with a pleasant aroma. They don't just coat the stomach to reduce the sensation of pressure. They go to the root of the problem. The volatile oils in the seeds, primarily linalool and other terpenes, relax the smooth muscle of the intestinal wall. When you're bloated, your bowel is often in a state of segmental spasm, where sections of the muscle are clamped down hard, creating isolated pockets of trapped gas that can't move forward or backward. The volatile oils tell those clamped muscles to release, to stop holding on so tight, and instead to move the gas along in a coordinated, gentle wave called peristalsis. They also stimulate digestive enzymes, helping to break down the food that's feeding the gas-producing bacteria in the first place. Here's the traditional use, and this is so simple you can do it right now. Take a teaspoon of whole coriander seeds, place them in a mortar or on a cutting board, and crush them gently with the pestle or the flat of a knife. You don't need to powder them. You just want to crack the seed coat to release the volatile oils. Put them in a cup, pour just boiled water over them. Cover the cup to trap the steam and the oils, and let it steep for 10 minutes. Sip that tea slowly after a meal, and you'll feel a gentle warmth spreading through your abdomen, a subtle relaxation, and then relief. In ancient times, coriander seeds were found in Egyptian tombs, placed there to sustain the dead in the afterlife. They were mentioned in Sanskrit texts and in the Bible in Exodus, where manna is described as being like coriander seed, white, and tasting like wafers made with honey. They were a culinary and medical staple, valued across cultures and millennia. Modern science has identified the specific terpenes responsible for this antispasmodic and carminative effect, isolating linalool and studying its mechanism of action on smooth muscle cells. We've replaced this with pink liquids that coat the tongue but don't address the paralyzed muscle, with chalky tablets that neutralize acid but leave the gas still trapped. The real question is, why keep suffering from a paralyzed, distended bowel when a seed can gently wake it up? Think of coriander seed as a traffic controller for the gridlocked freeway of gas bubbles in your colon, stepping into the chaos and directing each bubble to merge and exit smoothly. Number 7, cumin seed, the enzyme igniter. Cumin looks similar to fennel and caraway, small, elongated, ridged seeds, but its action is distinct and deeply warming. In biblical times, cumin was so valued it was used as a tithe, a currency of the sacred. In the book of Matthew, Jesus rebukes the Pharisees for tithing mint, dill, and cumin while neglecting the weightier matters of the law, which tells us that cumin was considered valuable enough to be offered to the temple, a spice of worth and a medicine of power. The volatile oils in cumin don't just relax the muscle. They directly stimulate the pancreas and the intestinal lining to release a flood of digestive enzymes. Amylase for carbohydrates, lipase for fats, protease for proteins. A lack of enzymes means food sits, ferments, and rots in the warm, dark environment of your gut, creating a balloon of gas that inflates your abdomen from the inside. Cumin speeds up the physical breakdown of food, leaving less substrate for bacteria to ferment into bloat. It also has a warming, stimulating energy that increases blood flow to the digestive organs, bringing oxygen and nutrients to the tissues that need to work. Here's the traditional use. Take a pinch of raw cumin seeds, maybe a quarter teaspoon, and chew them slowly, letting your teeth crack the seeds and release the oils. The flavor is warm, earthy, slightly bitter, with a hint of citrus. You'll feel the warmth spread from your mouth to your stomach. And you can almost feel the machinery turning on, the glands secreting, the muscles beginning to churn. You can also make a tea by dry roasting the seeds in a pan until they're fragrant and just beginning to smoke, then crushing them and steeping in hot water. Modern research has confirmed that cumin improves multiple symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome, including bloating, abdominal pain, and irregular bowel habits. In one study, patients taking cumin extract twice a day for 2 weeks reported significant improvements in all their symptoms compared to placebo. We rely on the stomach's own dwindling reserves of enzymes, depleted by stress and age and poor diet, never thinking to give it a natural chemical signal to ramp up production. Think of cumin seed as a whip crack to a lazy digestive crew, startling them into action so they process the food before it turns into a smoldering dump of gas. Number 6, fennel seed, the ancient gas passer. This is the classic, the after-dinner seed served in small bowls at Indian restaurants. The seeds chewed at the end of meals in cultures around the Mediterranean and the Middle East. You've probably seen them, those small, pale green ribbed seeds, sometimes coated in a colorful candy shell, offered with the check. This wasn't a random minty habit. It wasn't just to freshen the breath, though it does that too. It was medicine. Fennel seeds contain a compound called anethole, which is a powerful antispasmodic. It specifically relaxes the smooth muscle of the intestinal tract, allowing the tight, painful cramps that trap gas to release. When your bowel is in spasm, it's like a clenched fist around a balloon. The gas is there, but it can't move because the muscle is clamped down so hard. Anethole tells that fist to open, to unclench, to let the gas pass through. It's also a carminative, meaning it physically helps break down large gas bubbles into smaller ones that can be easily and quietly expelled. It reduces the surface tension of the bubbles, just like a chemical defoamer. But it does it naturally, with a warming, comforting energy. The relief from a strong fennel tea can be almost instantaneous. Here's the traditional use. Take a teaspoon of fennel seeds, crush them gently to release the oils, and steep them in a cup of just boiled water for 10 minutes, covered. The tea is pale yellow-green, aromatic, with a sweet licorice-like flavor that is immediately soothing. Or you can simply chew a pinch of the seeds whole, slowly, after a heavy meal. Modern clinical studies have shown fennel extract reducing bloating and abdominal discomfort in patients with IBS and functional dyspepsia. It's also a traditional remedy for infant colic, given in very dilute teas to calm the cramping, gassy bellies of newborns. We've turned to simethicone, a chemical defoamer that works mechanically in the gut, while ignoring the plant that performs the same function with a warming, comforting energy that also relaxes the muscle and stimulates digestion. Think of fennel seeds as a rescue whistle for the trapped, painful pockets of air that have been holding your abdomen hostage, finally breaking them up and setting them free. Number 5. Lemon balm, the nervous stomach whisperer. We're now getting into the territory where the gut and the brain are intimately connected, where the bloating isn't just about what you ate, but about what you're thinking and feeling. Bloat isn't always about food. Sometimes it's a physical manifestation of a worried mind, a stressed nervous system, a spirit that can't settle. Lemon balm is a member of the mint family, with soft, crinkled, heart-shaped leaves that release a bright, lemony, calming aroma when you brush against them. The ancients knew it as a gladdening herb, a plant that lifts the spirits and cheers the heart. The Greek physician Dioscorides wrote about it. The medieval herbalists prescribed it for melancholy and anxiety. It contains rosmarinic acid and other compounds that have a direct, mild calming effect on the nervous system. It also interacts with GABA receptors in the brain, promoting a sense of calm without sedation. When you're stressed, your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, is activated. Blood flow is diverted away from your digestive organs. Your gut muscles tighten, clench, and trap gas. Your digestion slows to a crawl. You're not in rest and digest mode, you're in survive mode. Lemon balm whispers to the vagus nerve, the main highway of communication between the brain and the gut, telling the entire system to unclench, to shift back into parasympathetic mode, to rest and digest. It also has antispasmodic properties directly on the digestive tissue, relaxing the smooth muscle independently of its nervous system effects. Here's the traditional use. Go out to your garden or your windowsill pot. Pick a handful of fresh lemon balm leaves, rinse them, and place them in a teapot. Pour just boiled water over them, cover, and let it steep for 10 minutes. As you wait, bring your face close to the pot and inhale the steam. The lemony, calming aroma enters your nose and triggers the olfactory nerves, sending a signal of calm directly to your limbic system. Then sip the tea slowly, feeling the warmth travel down to your stomach, feeling the tension in your diaphragm release. It eases the tightness in the upper abdomen, allowing the stomach to relax and the gas to shift. We pop antacids for a stressed belly, never realizing the problem is a clenched, frightened muscle, not excess acid. Think of lemon balm as a gentle hand on your shoulder, a warm and reassuring presence, telling your entire enteric nervous system, you are safe now. You can let go. Number 4, chamomile, the master antispasmodic. This tiny, daisy-like flower, with its white petals and golden center, is one of the most profound and well-researched gut healers in the entire plant kingdom. It's often dismissed as a mild sleepy-time tea, a gentle beverage for children and grandmothers, but its power over a cramping, bloated gut is fierce. Chamomile contains a flavonoid called apigenin, which binds to benzodiazepine receptors in the brain, creating a mild calming effect, reducing anxiety and promoting sleep. This is why a cup of chamomile tea before bed helps you drift off. But more directly, its volatile oils, particularly a compound called bisabolol and its oxides, have a potent anti-inflammatory and antispasmodic action on the smooth muscle of the intestine. It literally breaks the cycle of pain, spasm, and gas trapping. Here's how that cycle works. You eat something that irritates your gut. The gut muscles spasm, clamping down on a pocket of gas. The trapped gas stretches the intestinal wall, causing pain. The pain triggers more spasm. The spasm traps more gas. And around it goes, a vicious feedback loop that can last for hours. Chamomile interrupts this cycle at multiple points. It reduces the inflammation that's triggering the spasm. It relaxes the muscle that's clamping down, and it calms the nervous system that's amplifying the pain. Here's the traditional use, and preparation matters. You need a very strong infusion, not a weak pale tea. Take 2 tablespoons of dried chamomile flowers, place them in a jar or a teapot, and pour a cup of just boiled water over them. Cover immediately and let it steep for a full 15 minutes. You want to trap the volatile oils, which are the most potent antispasmodic compounds. If you leave the pot uncovered, those oils evaporate and you lose the medicine. The resulting liquid is a deep golden color, almost amber, with an intense, honeyed, apple-like aroma. Drink it while it's still warm, and you'll feel the muscles in your abdomen begin to unknot. Modern clinical research supports its use in reducing colic in infants and cramping in adults. One study found that chamomile extract was as effective as a common antispasmodic drug in reducing symptoms of IBS. We reach for strong, gut-irritating pain relievers. The ibuprofen and the naproxen that themselves can cause intestinal inflammation and bleeding, while a flower offers a genuine, gentle release. Think of chamomile as a masseuse for the smooth muscle of your colon, working out the knots with patient, skilled hands, allowing the trapped wind to flow freely again. Number 3, ginger, the great mover. Ginger, Zingiber officinale, is a root of fire and action, a gnarled, beige rhizome that looks unassuming on the outside, but contains a pharmacy of potent compounds within. It's one of the most proven remedies in the world for nausea, backed by dozens of clinical trials showing it reduces motion sickness, morning sickness, and chemotherapy-induced nausea. But its role in bloating is equally powerful and less widely appreciated. Ginger is a prokinetic. That's a clinical term, a word you'd hear in a gastroenterologist's office. It means it speeds up gastric emptying. It physically stimulates the smooth muscle of the stomach to contract in a coordinated, rhythmic way, pushing food down into the small intestine faster. When food sits in the stomach, when it just pools there and doesn't move, you get that heavy, bloated, overly full sensation, the feeling of a brick sitting in your upper abdomen. Ginger sweeps it clean. It also relaxes the pyloric sphincter, the valve between the stomach and the small intestine, allowing food to pass through more easily. And it contains gingerols and shagules, powerful anti-inflammatory compounds that calm irritation along the entire digestive lining, reducing the swelling and the reactive spasms. Here's the traditional use. Take a thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger root, peel it with the edge of a spoon, and slice it into thin coins. Place them in a pot with 2 cups of water, bring to a boil, and then reduce the heat and simmer gently for 10 to 15 minutes. The water will turn a pale yellow, and the aroma will fill your kitchen, spicy and warm and invigorating. Strain it into a mug and sip it slowly. The heat you feel, the gentle burn at the back of your throat, is the medicine working. It's increasing blood flow to the digestive organs. It's stimulating the muscle contractions. It's waking up a sluggish, lazy stomach. You can also chew a small, thin slice of the raw root, but be warned, it's intense. The heat can be surprising if you're not used to it. We rely on drugs that block stomach acid, proton pump inhibitors, and H2 blockers, which reduce acid but also slow digestion even further, creating the very conditions for bacterial overgrowth and gas production. When what we need is a mover, a stimulant, a root that says, "Wake up and do your job," think of ginger as a shepherd's crook, gently but firmly pulling the sluggish, lingering mass of food out of your stomach and into the next stage of its journey, taking the pressure and bloat with it. Number 2, aloe vera, the liquid bandage. We're entering the realm of the deep healers now. The plants that don't just move gas or stimulate enzymes, but actually repair the damaged tissue of the gut lining itself. Aloe vera inner leaf gel is not just for sunburns. You know the scene. You're at the beach, you've stayed out too long, your skin is red and hot and angry, and someone breaks open a fat, spiky aloe leaf and smears the cool, clear gel over your shoulders. The relief is immediate, the heat dissipates, the redness fades. That same gel, when taken internally, performs a similar miracle on the mucosal lining of the digestive tract. The clear, mucilaginous gel is rich in polysaccharides, specifically a compound called asamin, along with other long-chain sugars that have a profound soothing and anti-inflammatory effect on the gut lining. When your gut is inflamed from food sensitivities, from processed foods, from stress, from years of ibuprofen use, it becomes raw and reactive, swelling up and producing gas and mucus and pain. The intestinal villi, those tiny finger-like projections that absorb your nutrients, become blunted and inflamed. The tight junctions between cells loosen, allowing proteins and bacteria to leak into the bloodstream. Aloe coats that raw surface with a cooling, healing layer, adhering to the damaged tissue and protecting it from further irritation while the body repairs itself. It also acts as a mild lubricant to ease transit, helping stool move through an inflamed, swollen colon without scraping and causing more damage. Here's the traditional use, and this is critical. You must use the inner gel only. carefully filleted away from the outer green rind, and especially from the yellow latex layer just beneath the rind. That yellow latex, called a loin, is a powerful stimulant laxative that can cause cramping and diarrhea. You don't want that. You want the clear, slippery gel from the center of the leaf. Take a fresh leaf, slice off the spiky edges, and use a sharp knife to separate the flat top and bottom of the leaf from the gel inside. Scoop out the clear gel, about 2 tablespoons, and blend it with a cup of water or juice until it's smooth and slightly frothy. Drink it immediately. It's a slippery, almost tasteless drink that coats your mouth and throat as it goes down, and provides immediate relief to a burning, swollen gut. Modern science confirms its role in calming inflammatory bowel conditions. Studies have shown that aloe vera gel can reduce inflammation and promote healing in ulcerative colitis. And it's being investigated for its effects on the gut microbiome. We ignore the lining of our gut until it screams, until every meal causes pain and bloating and discomfort. Then we burn it further with carbonated acids and spicy foods and alcohol, never giving it the cooling, healing balm it's begging for. Think of aloe vera as a fire blanket thrown over a burning, inflamed intestinal wall, smothering the fire so the swelling and pressure can finally subside and the tissue can begin to knit itself back together. Number 1, peppermint, the instant relief champion. And here we are at number 1. The plant that works with such speed and precision it feels like a clinical drug. Yet it's a pure, ancient gift. A hybrid of watermint and spearmint that arose naturally in the wild and has been cultivated for its medicine ever since. Peppermint is the most powerful natural antispasmodic for the digestive tract we have. Its active compound, menthol, has a direct, pharmacological action on the smooth muscle lining your intestines. It acts as a calcium channel blocker. That's a term you'd hear in a cardiology ward, describing drugs that relax blood vessels and reduce blood pressure. In the gut, calcium channel blockade means peppermint oil literally prevents the smooth muscle cells from contracting too hard. It stabilizes the cell membranes, reducing the influx of calcium ions that trigger muscle contraction. When you're bloated, your bowel is often in a state of chaotic, disorganized cramping, segments of muscle clamping down hard while others are lax, trapping pockets of gas like a clenched fist around a balloon. The gas can't move forward because the muscle ahead is clamped shut. The gas can't move backward because the muscle behind is clamped shut. So it just sits there, stretching the intestinal wall, causing pain and distension. Peppermint oil tells that fist to open. It relaxes the spasming segments, allowing coordinated peristalsis to resume, allowing the gas to move along and be expelled. It also has antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties, calming the entire intestinal environment. Clinical trials on enteric-coated peppermint oil capsules have shown significant reductions in bloating, abdominal pain, and gas in people with irritable bowel syndrome. Enteric coating is important because it allows the capsules to pass through the stomach intact and release the oil directly in the small intestine, where it's needed most. But the fresh plant works too for milder symptoms. Here's the traditional use. Take a handful of fresh peppermint leaves or a heaping tablespoon of dried leaves and steep them in just boiled water for 10 minutes, covered. The volatile oils will infuse into the water, turning it a pale green and filling the air with that sharp, cooling, unmistakable aroma. Sip it slowly. As the liquid travels down, you can feel the cooling sensation spread through your chest and into your abdomen. The muscles begin to unclench, the pressure begins to shift, and then release. For more concentrated relief, a single drop of genuine peppermint essential oil can be added to a teaspoon of honey or a carrier oil and taken internally. But be cautious. Peppermint oil is potent and more is not better. One drop is often enough. We've created a billion-dollar industry of chemical antifoaming agents and chalky tablets and proton pump inhibitors, while the genuine, powerful antispasmodic was growing in the garden, its leaves releasing their medicine into the air every time the wind blew. Think of peppermint as a master locksmith, walking up to the seized, clenched, and spasming muscles of your colon, inserting a cool, mentholated key, and simply releasing the lock, allowing the trapped pressure to vanish, allowing the normal, healthy rhythm of digestion to resume. The phrase, a land flowing with milk and honey, appears in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, and Jeremiah. It wasn't a poetic accident, it was a nutritional promise. But that land was also flowing with mint, with fennel, with dandelion, with purslane, with mallows by the bushes. It wasn't just a spiritual metaphor. It was a medical promise. An emergency room in your backyard that's been there all along, just waiting for you to remember it exists.